Welcome to iNN's headline news and beyond for 2000 April 10th 2012. Um, we're back. We have more changes in store because as the news world moves forward, as we get a better understanding, we always have to retool and present new things as they are. So let's let you know that we're coming to you raw and unedited. You will see this broadcast change and evolve over a period of time. We'll try out new stuff. We're not going to edit out the mistakes. You can see the mistakes for what they are. And then you can make your own decision. So we're going to move forward. We're going to, with our domestic affairs as we normally do, we're going to add in a new section, and you'll see that the formats will change a little bit, and you'll see that we will be learning more and more, getting more and more into the mechanisms into what drives politics here. Because we are looking at political affairs and not economic issues, what you'll also see is a lot of the economic issues have been moved off to the economics channel at DCB Economics TV. It's our channel. That channel is listed below in the description bar, and it's on the front page. If you go to the front page of our channel here, iNN, you will see, if you go down to the featured channels, you will see DCB Economic TV. And that's where all your economic news is going to go. For those of you who are into anti-poverty or whatever, anything that has to do with poverty or wealth, that's all economics, and that's now all on the Economics News channel. So, moving on with our issues of the day, let's begin. We begin with two basically videos from the O'Reilly Factor. Let me get this done properly here. There we go.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. The battle for America begins, and that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. After last night's vote, there's no doubt it will be Mitt Romney running against President Obama next November. And the president is already defining his opponent as a guy who cares only about the rich, and if elected would harm everyday Americans. Strategy is not new because the Republican Party wants to cut government spending. Some people will be adversely affected. Thus, Mr. Obama will say, if you don't want to pay for a woman's birth control, you're anti-woman. If you don't want to spend more money on education, you don't care about the kids. And if you call for Medicare reform, you want to hurt the elderly, etc. That's the game. President Obama and the Democrats are the party of compassion. Mitt Romney and the Republicans are the bad people who just don't care. Except about the rich, of course. They want them to get even richer at everybody else's expense. Now, Democrats and liberal Americans will buy that, and conservative Americans and Republicans will not. But it is those in the middle, the independents, who will decide the election. President Obama has one huge advantage in courting them, the media. And now I'm going to show you something truly amazing. The Associated Press is the most widely distributed news service in the country. The chairman of the board at the AP is a man named Dean Singleton. He's a big shot. And the other day he was speaking to the American Society of Newspaper Editors, big shots all. Singleton's also the chairman of the Media News Group, which owns dozens of newspapers like the Denver Post, the Salt Lake Tribune, and the San Jose Mercury News. So here's how Dean Singleton introduced President Obama to the journalists.
As president, he inherited the headwinds of the worst economic recession since the Great Depression. He pushed through Congress the biggest economic recovery plan in history and led a government reorganization of two of the big three auto manufacturers to save them from oblivion. He pursued domestic and foreign policy agendas that were controversial to many, highlighted by his signature into law of the most comprehensive healthcare legislation in history.
I'm surprised Singleton wasn't wearing an Obama button. I mean, come on. The president well understands most of the media will back him and portray Mitt Romney as a mean rich guy. But it will go beyond that, as MSNBC demonstrated last night.
Mormonism was created by a guy in upstate New York in 1830
when he got caught having sex with the maid and explained to his wife that God told him to do it? 48 wives later, Joseph Smith's lifestyle was completely sanctified, and the religion that he invented to go with it, which Mitt Romney says he believes. What a smear. Are you kidding me? That's like saying no Episcopalian or Anglican could run for president because of Henry VIII. And so the campaign is underway. Could be the dirtiest in the nation's history. And that's the memo. Now to the top.
Hi, I'm Laura Ingram in for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. What's next for the GOP? That's the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Now that Rick Santorum has suspended his campaign, the ball is fully in Mitt Romney's court. His campaign can no longer blame the travails of a long primary to explain away polls that show his support lagging in swing states, among women, and in other key demographic groups. We know what Barack Obama's strategy is going to be. Paint Mitt Romney as a defender of the rich, an enemy of women's rights, an out-of-touch elitist who loves firing people, a guy with mega mansions and a car elevator. Obama will continue his get-out-the-vote razzle-dazzle operation, complete with celebrity endorsements and a wife who pops up to sell his accomplishments, and her own, on every entertainment platform known to man. But Romney should take heart, because many of us are convinced that voters actually want to see a serious debate about how to turn this country around. Many of the voters who supported Rick Perry, Michelle Bachmann, Newt Gingrich, and Rick Santorum did so because they believed each of them would aggressively and passionately fight to restore our national path to prosperity and invigorate our commitment to our founding principles. Many were doubtful, and still are, that Romney has the political savvy and commitment to common-sense conservatism to get the job done. So to get those folks to really rally for him, to volunteer for him, to go door-to-door for him, Romney needs to demonstrate quickly that he will be as tenacious in taking the fight to Obama as he was in taking it to Gingrich and Santorum. He's prone to saying that Barack Obama is a nice guy, but... well, that may be gracious, but it doesn't advance the ball, and it doesn't make Romney any more attractive as a candidate. Plus, think about it. What's happened to our country in recent years, and especially under Obama, isn't nice at all. Chronic under- and unemployment, stagnant wages, rising prices for food and gasoline, record debt levels and deficit spending. So as the president does the divide and demonize dance during this election, Governor Romney should emerge as the adult in the room, offering a mature, fact-based plan to restore the American dream to all people regardless of race or gender. The games Barack Obama has played with our money have brought us to a dangerously close position of no return. Game on.
So this is the O'Reilly Factor's position. This is Fox's position on what's going on in the race. Apparently, as you know, Rick Santorum has dropped out of the race now. There has been no decision on what's going to happen with the delegates, but the assumption is everything is going to go to Romney, and so the political machine swings into gets into full gear. And here is the RNC ad.
That's why I'm in this race, to offer change that we can believe in.
Well, we were lied to when Obama came through. Gave us a lot of hope and supposedly a lot of change. Well, I've got change in my pocket, but the hope is gone. I have talked to so many people who were huge supporters of yours back in 2008, and today they're not sure. I hear more and more that they're disappointed in you.
They're saying that President Obama is nothing like candidate
They're
Obama.
not happy with the way you're doing your job.
Barack Obama's a politician. He's not the prophetic leader of a movement.
Keeping promising, to us, like whatever is going to change, I don't see it yet.
If you're willing to work even harder in this election, I promise you change will come.
President Obama's campaign staff is already planning how to go negative on the Republican candidate.
It's fear this time. 2012, it's fear of the alternative.
The Obama campaign said they wanted to, quote, kill Mitt Romney, that you're going to trash him.
Because if you don't have any fresh ideas, and you use stale tactics to scare voters.
This Republican path to poverty passes like a tornado through America's nursing homes.
If you don't have a record to run on, then you paint your opponent as someone people should run from. Disguised as deficit reduction plans, it is really an attempt to impose a radical vision on our country. You make a big election about small things. They must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society.
The Republican National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
So you may be seeing these ads around, hearing all the talk now about the path to the White House now, the path to 2012 election is now admittedly fully underway, even though the Republican National, the convention, the delegate count isn't over yet. Santorum has not decided what he wants to do with these votes of his, but things are nonetheless moving forward. And to be fair, we got to point this out that while yes, AP has a strong, which has a huge media backing, they are a very popular media source. Yes, they do back Obama, and a lot of people like him do back Obama. There's a lot of people on Obama's side. But to be fair on this, you also have to point out Rupert Murdoch, who is the owner of Fox, and also has a massive media outlet. He supports the Republicans. So you have a back and forth here where both sides have issues of their own, and both sides have points of their own. The question is how are we going to go sort of work through this and figure out which is the best direction and which isn't the best direction. And in many cases, the decision on voting doesn't come down to who you like. It comes down to a question of who you can live with the best. And for me, if you're an independent and you're a person who wants to live free and clear of the government, and do what you want to do, whether it's help other people or whatever, however you want to do things, the clear choice is less government, and that means Mitt Romney. Now, that doesn't mean that I like Mitt Romney. It doesn't mean I like Republicans in terms as say, oh yeah, Republicans are my party, because I have no party. It's for me, for the way I live my life, what's the best path forward, and the best path forward for me, because the Republicans say they're going to step out of our lives. We're not going to have as much government in our lives with the Republicans, and I intend to hold them to this if Romney gets elected. But Obama comes around and says, no, we're going to have more government in your life, and to me this sounds like a problem. And from what I've seen in terms of the number of retirees who are that I know of who are concerned about their pensions being taxed because they've been told their pensions are amalgamated. This isn't coming from a Republican side. This is coming from the IRS themselves. Letters are being sent out to people who have pension funds and are now considered to be millionaires. And this is the problem. A large chunk of people who have pension funds, and if you're planning a pension fund, you're going to be classified as a millionaire. And so they are now going after pensioners. And a lot of pensioners, whether they're in the United States or not in the United States, are seriously weighing their options as what they're going to do, because they have to now sit down and plan for a tax environment they never thought they'd have to encounter. So, this is it. Your choice here is not necessarily one of who you like or don't like, but a question of who you can live with the best. So this is where we're going to move forward with this. We're going to look forward and look at a lot of the different biases, the different issues that are going on. And the way we're going to do this as we move forward, we're going to go to the Martin Zimmerman case, the shooting of Trayvon Martin, and we'll see how these things, because this is now working out to be a very hot political issue. And so we're going to take a look at this. We'll see what they have to say on this issue. And I've got two more videos on here. One is the first one is from Anderson Cooper's 360, and the follow-up is from Aaron Burnett's Out Front. Both are from CNN.
Mark Garagos, as a defense attorney, what was your reaction to this very public withdrawal?
Oh my God.
I'm sitting here, Anderson, and this is just a train wreck of proportions. I don't even know where to begin.
Explain.
Well, first of all, I don't understand the people invoking their ethical obligations and then going out and blasting the client, which is what they just did. This may be the height of chutzpah for criminal defense lawyers to say, we haven't talked to our clients for 2 days, so therefore we're withdrawing. By the way, there's no court case filed, so there's nothing to withdraw from, number one. Number two, who are you to be diagnosing your client's mental state when you say you haven't talked to him? This is completely inexplicable, and I thought I was watching a Saturday Night Live skit.
Is it unusual to you, Mark, that they were never officially retained by Mr. Zimmerman? I mean, every time I've hired attorneys, I've gotten a document pretty quickly to sign saying, or even a real estate agent, a document pretty quickly to sign saying, I am retaining you.
Well, here in California, you got Jose on the line. You can ask Jose. Here in California, if it's a retention for over $1,000, the state bar rule is it must be in writing, signed by the client. To be out there doing the media tour and bouncing from place to place, and I'm telling you, my tongue is bleeding because I was biting my tongue as I was watching this, because I don't like to second guess other lawyers who are in the eye of the storm. But this, frankly, is one of the most outrageous things I've ever witnessed. I mean, this is really beyond the pale for two lawyers to go out there and say we haven't contacted him in 2 days and we felt it was our ethical responsibility to go on the air right now and start blasting him and saying it may be a potential defense that the guy's got a mental problem, and when we're trying to say that he was in reasonable fear for his life when he had shot somebody. This is just the height of absurdity. I don't even know where to begin on this, Anderson. It's ridiculous.
Jose Baez, what do you make of this?
Well, Anderson, first, you can't have Mark on before me because he just stole every single word I was about to say.
Okay.
I think I too thought I was watching a Saturday Night Live skit. I think it's unbelievable that you would get on television and talk about your client's mental state. Now, this is what you have here. You have, as an attorney, you have an ethical obligation not only to not attorney-client communications, but attorney-client confidences. Things you learn in the process of representing a client are considered confidential. So any conversations they had or non-conversations they had with George Zimmerman are completely protected. And the holder of this privilege is George Zimmerman, not the attorneys. Unfortunately, I've seen in Central Florida this type of a resignation from a public resignation from another attorney who I'd rather not name, and I too think it's reprehensible, unbelievable.
Sonny,
Jose, what do they have in the water down there in Florida? I don't understand what they're doing. This is just absolutely the worst thing I think I can remember seeing any lawyers do in regards to their client. I thought that some of the previous interviews were train wrecks. Those things were toy cars compared to what this is.
Well, actually, Jose, let me just ask you about the Florida law. How quickly are you supposed to sign a document retaining counsel?
Now, a retainer agreement is not required.
Okay.
Unlike in other states, it is strongly suggested, and certainly it is something that any competent lawyer would do, would be immediately get a retainer agreement, especially if you're putting your face, your name in front of a television camera, saying that you represent someone that you haven't even met. I think that's incredibly reckless.
Sonny Hostin, you're a former prosecutor. What's your take on it?
Well, Anderson, for once, Mark Garagos and I agree, right? And I agree with Jose Baez as well. I've never seen anything like this. And so, Mark, you have me on this one. But I think as a prosecutor, you come, you're looking at a case, and now I'm worried. I'm worried if I am inclined to bring charges. Is George Zimmerman a flight risk? Can I get to him? If I have to issue an arrest warrant, now maybe my investigation is going a little more quickly. Maybe now I'm going to bring charges a little more quickly. And so this really harms George Zimmerman in the eyes of a prosecutor looking at this case and deciding whether or not to charge.
Mark,
and who are they going to call? They're going to call these two lawyers now as witnesses as to his mental state, and which, as Jose aptly described, is something that's completely protected by the privilege, and they just go out on national TV and say this guy is unhinged?
Let me begin with the family here, who you've been very closely in touch with, obviously. Were they watching today's news conference, news conference given on behalf of George Zimmerman's attorneys? What was their reaction?
Yes, ma'am. As the lead attorney for the parents of Trayvon Martin and with our other lawyers, we all watched the press conference. And as I told Roland earlier, it was just surprising to us. And after the press conference, his parents turned to me and said, they don't know where this guy is at. And that is the issue. They don't know where the killer of Trayvon Martin is at. He is unaccounted for, and they are really concerned about that because they do worry about him being a flight risk. They worry about if he's ever going to be brought to justice for killing their son.
You know, we hear from Sanford Police. They say they do know where George Zimmerman is, even though he's apparently not exactly in contact with anyone else. Do they buy that, and are they still fearful that despite the fact that police know where he is, he could still flee?
Well, with this sporadic conduct on behalf of George Zimmerman, we think he's a flight risk. We found out today he's not in the state of Florida. The lawyers say they don't think he will leave the country, but again, they haven't met him. As we were telling Roland Martin, we're really concerned about this because how does this impact the prosecution going forward? If he is charges of fault, is he going to face the charges or is he going to flee?
Wait, Mr. Crumb,
it's a real troubling matter.
Am I hearing you correctly that you are hearing that he is not in Florida? Is that what you just said?
Yes, we heard that he's not in the state of Florida.
Where are you getting that from?
Well, no, we picked that up from the press conference. They said they know where he's at, but they know where they think he is, but they're not sure.
So you're not calling because it's been portrayed.
All right, so that's the video regarding Trayvon Martin, and you can see there from the two different clips that I showed how something portrayed one way can spin completely out of control and be represented in another fashion. So what you're seeing here is you're seeing two sides of the story, and we're seeing Anderson Cooper giving him credit for this, backing off on his rhetoric, and allowing the arguments of other people to sort of make the case for you. And this is what we're doing here. So what you're doing is you're seeing this. Sometimes it's better not for what I say. It's better if you can see the connection between two different statements from each different side. So here we see the lawyers talking about it, on Anderson Cooper talking, very matter of fact, in terms of how they view what happened with the lawyers. Then we see the family lawyers who have a vested interest, they're representing the family, how they view the exact same conference and how they're sort of spreading it out. Now, what you don't see is you don't see these two clips back to back on CNN, and that's how sometimes spin can be put in, even though you have this clip on there. If the only clip you see in your teasers and advertisements and run-ups to the different show is the one from the Trayvon Martin family lawyer, then the impression that you're going to get on the case is one that there's something fishy going on. But if you watched and saw the two clips back to back the way I showed you, then a whole different view is coming. You see that that these lawyers never met George Zimmerman. They were never retained personally by George Zimmerman. These people sort of popped up and say, we'll help you, we'll help represent you. Then 2 days later, after having not met him at all, walked off and say, we're resigning. So the resignation wasn't really a resignation. It was sort of like a phony type of thing. But yet they were called a resignation anyways. And so this is why you really do have to be careful what you're watching on the news. Even if people back off and they're not using the hot rhetoric they usually use, you have to sort. And I'm giving Anderson Cooper credit on this right now, that he has backed off on his rhetoric. This is a good thing to do. This is a good thing to see. Now, if we're going to hit further, we want to see a lot of these things back to back. But a lot of times that's very difficult to do, particularly since with the DCA you have to ask people permission for different clips, and if there's competition between the anchors, and a lot of times we see with the CBS, the recent death of Mike Wallace, there was competition between anchors, then anchors may not be so keen to share information. So this is going to bring us to the end of the first segment. We are going to go into the next segment, the next section of INN's Headlines and Beyond when we come back, and I will see you in the next segment.